This meme I saw recently, if you want to feel bad about yourself as a programmer, realize that one person wrote Railroad Tycoon. I think that's the name of the game. It's this cool little builder game. One person wrote it in assembly. So from scratch, and for people who don't know, it kind of looks like a SimCity type game. It's a city builder, but obviously centered on railroads. And there's a nice graphics, the 3-dimensional, all that kind of stuff. All the things, all the rich, colorful things you would imagine for a 3-dimensional video game, all written in assembly, meaning the lowest level code next to binary.
Yeah,
which is fascinating. And that's that you had to notice the magic at that low level at that time. You didn't have all the graphics. You didn't have all the like APIs and all the sample codes, no Stack Overflow, no internet, none of that.
You had to know registers. Had to know the opcodes, and you had to imagine the world in your brain of the memory structures and everything else. There's no visualization. You visualized it all yourself, right? And so that was magic. But then the next part of the magic of where I got hooked even further was like I'm doing these little things. And then Electronic Arts came out for the Apple II. So I got an Apple II. And Electronic Arts came out, and I was programming and doing BASIC and making my own games. But then there were two games that really blew my mind. One was Pinball Construction Set, and the other one was Music Construction Set. And these were both places where I could create pinball games and I could create musical scores because I love music, and I could then play them, right? And so when you had that, you were like, oh, this is something very different. So I could create myself, but then there was others that could create tools so you could create at a visual level. And then you would read the backstories, because Electronics Arts back in the day, it was one programmer who would program those things, each of those things. And you could read their backstories. It was literally like a musician or someone else. Like you could read Rick Rubin's, like, here's the thing. They tell you all of that stuff. And there was one guy who wrote Music Construction Set. He wrote it all in assembly, and he was 16 years old.
Wow.
And I was probably 12 or 13 at the time. And I went, oh my. If he was able to do this and had it published, right, and this amazing tool was created, I'm like, what can I do? And so then it just kept building off of that. But really, it was those seminal things. First, the introduction, and then the power through programming and turning these things into what you wanted to turn it into. And you didn't have to be 40, 50 years old and have, PhDs. And then I was like, okay, this is really cool.